Oh, sweet Christ. Well, it's December. You know, Red Ribbon Reviewers time and Christmas and all that good shit. It's like... You guys know Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, right?
Even if you haven't actually read it, the story has been adapted so many times that you know the main point from beginning to end. From movies to TV episodes, live action, animation, and Muppet, serious, comedy, or parody, A Christmas Carol is one of the most beloved Christmas stories of all time. Now, because it's been adapted so many times, it's hard to make a really great Christmas Carol movie, one that really stands out, but it's also hard to make one that's terrible. As long as you stick close to the main plot of the book, you should at least be watchable, right?
Let's talk about 2001's Christmas Carol, the movie.
Yeah, the movie, like this is the definitive version of A Christmas Carol. It was directed by Jimmy T. Murakami, well known for directing The Snowman and When the Wind Blows, this being the last film he directed before his death in 2014. Despite an all-star cast, it didn't do that well financially, and it only got a home video release here in the US, and critical reception was not that good either.
Why wasn't it that well received? Well, I'll show you. This is A Christmas Carol, the movie.
Holy shit, this is from Illumination? Oh wait, Illuminated. Guess it makes sense, there's no minions. So we start with a very boring, black, soundless opening credits and then open up in London, where we see Ebenezer Scrooge, and automatically you'll notice a big problem. The animation. Now, even though I'm reviewing this on NDTV, it did get a theatrical release in the UK in 2001. 2001. This looks closer to direct-to-video animation in 1981. The basic character designs don't look that much better than that shitty movie The Christmas Tree, and as for the animation quality itself, the thing it reminds me the most of is that animated Titanic movie with the rapping dog. The lip syncing is bad. The characters move awkwardly and the backgrounds just look dull. It's barely better animated than that Hercules movie I reviewed a few years ago.
But animation is one thing. If it has a good heart and a strong enough story, it can overcome that, right?
Scrooge in this movie is voiced by Simon Cowell, which could have been the best casting decision of all time, but he really doesn't add much that we haven't seen in a dozen other Christmas Carol stories. He plays the role fine, but that's it. It's just fine. He also plays the narrator.
The poor made do with what little they had. Which brings us to our friend, the little mouse.
Look, look, he's...
Don't scare me like that, kid.
These children are mesmerized by a mouse they have named Gabriel. You may ask why I'm talking about this. You'll see. They're in a hospital being looked over by Miss Bell, played by Kate Winslet. We then cut back to Scrooge walking down the street. I think this is a show off how much of an asshole he is, but honestly it just seems like he doesn't want to buy anything.
Mr. Scrooge! Mr. Scrooge! Over here!
Oh Christ, what is that thing?
This is Joe, played by Robert Lewin. Scrooge gives him a book of people who owe debt, and he sends Joe off to collect or throw people in debtor's prison. I don't remember that in the original story, although to be fair, maybe my copy took that out. Scrooge goes back to his business to see his assistant. No, not Bob Cratchit. He also has a little mouse friend. I'll get to that in a minute, but we do actually have a Bob Cratchit in this. Played by... Luna Lovegood's dad and the lizard. Belle and the town doctor Lambert are finishing up on Tiny Tim's appointment, but then Lambert is dragged off to debtor's prison as Joe comes in and takes their money.
Boo!
What was the point of that?
Belle learns that Lambert's debt was brought by Scrooge, and then this happens. Why are they laughing at her? So she decides to write a letter asking Scrooge to forgive Lambert's debt, but when she gets there, Scrooge is out.
Well, I had hoped to speak to Mr. Scrooge personally.
The contracts are full and binding, and the penalties explained in full at the time of agreement.
Yeah, fuck it, let him rot in jail. I'm sorry, I just don't give a shit about this debt subplot. She leaves the letter with Cratchit as we get more wacky hijinks with the mice. The two mice meet each other, and it's here you may be wondering why we're focusing on them so much.
They're two of our supporting characters. They have more screen time in this thing than Bob Cratchit.
Scrooge is then greeted by his nephew Fred.
Humbug.
Strange was for Christmas time.
The only time of the year when all men and women open their hearts and see each other as equals.
And you see that as a good thing? If people are only treating each other like humans one time out of the year, I would find that world really shitty. Fred, of course, invites Scrooge to Christmas dinner with his family, but he refuses. Cratchit loses the letter, forcing one of the mice to commit suicide. No, the other little mouse saves him, and then Scrooge throws some water on Tiny Tim for caroling.
This is what causes him to get sick and die. I fucking hate those mice. Stop that!
So Scrooge begrudgingly gives Cratchit a paid day off, but tells him to be in extra early the next day as the mice bring Scrooge the letter, but he chooses to wait to read it.
And then Jacob Marley shows up.
Yep, not at his home, but at his business. With no build-up, no atmosphere, he just does some creepy shit, and then he's on screen. And he's played by Nicolas Cage.
Because of course he is.
Ebenezer, I've come to warn you.
Is this about the Forsyth account? I assure you, Jacob, everything is...
Get those goddamn mice off the screen! So he tells them that his greed condemned him, and tells them that he will be visited by 3 spirits before being pulled away.
You can still escape my fate. Grow, blossom, share, Ebenezer. Mend your way.
Well, that could have been a creepy scene. The goddamn mice! Scrooge thinks he's hallucinating and doesn't give money to the poor.
The poor would rather die than go to a workhouse. Let them die and make themselves useful by decreasing the surplus population.
And then we get shtick.
Oh, I can't stop. I can't stop. Oh, help. Oh dear.
Well, that was a thing. Anyway, let's get to the dying kid.
Christmas. What now, Tim? Not another cold. He's shivering all over.
Well, this is what you get for singing in public.
Scrooge goes home and...
Mend your ways.
Marley!
You've already seen Marley. Maybe this is why switching the scenes around isn't a smart thing to do. God, this movie is boring. When did the ghost show up? Stop zooming in on pictures, it's getting really annoying. So the little mice's subplot in this is to get Scrooge to read the letter.
What can it be? My goodness, it is. How did you manage? In my coat. You are clever. You must be hungry. Here's some porridge.
Yeah, Scrooge is really friendly towards this mouse. Can you imagine the book Scrooge or any other incarnation being so nice to a mouse in his house? And this is coming from the same Scrooge that threw a bucket of freezing water on a kid. It's like they're trying to make him both nicer and meaner than he was in the original story. They get him the letter, but he falls asleep before he can read it. Pointless. Then a half hour in, we finally get to see the spirits. Starting, of course, with the Ghost of Christmas Past, played by Jane Horrocks.
Haunting.
Yeah, stop getting us so close to these characters. It's creeping me out.
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Oh, God. That was more terrifying than anything I reviewed in October.
So she takes him to the past. Of course, that little mouse has to come with him, as she shows him his old school.
Well, Ebenezer, I don't expect anyone will come for you anymore at this hour. What did you do to bring this upon yourself? Merry Christmas, nonetheless.
I did not understand back then. It's sometimes hard to see the reason.
Stop doing that! So after what I guess are years of not going home because his dad just didn't pick him up, he finally gets to go home for Christmas. And it's here he meets Belle.
When we met that summer.
Sorry, I had to. So his dad sets him up to be an apprentice at Fezziwigs, and we see him having fun and overall enjoying himself.
Red Rig, how are you? Did your master let you out?
The fuck? Is he a slave?
So Scrooge and Belle start up a little romance, but over the years he becomes greedy.
I do not make the world we live in, Belle. But I am a man of my word.
I release you. I break off our engagement.
This is gonna end up pissing me off, isn't it? She sends him back where he immediately falls asleep. So the mice once again try to get him the letter. What was the point of having that one come along? He did nothing. But anyway, now we have the Ghost of Christmas Present, played by Michael Gambon.
I come to teach you joy. Joy that makes a banquet out of a simple meal. Joy, Mr. Scrooge, that comes from sharing. That was fun.
So they fly off with the mice, but it seems one of them can't hold on.
Yay! Damn it!
The hell am I watching?
Mind, Mr. Balcom?
Hang on, I was here first.
No, you're right. It is Christmas after all. You go first, sir.
No, please, after you.
I would not dream of it, sir.
There, gentlemen. Come back in 2 hours, and your goose will be cooked.
That was a creepy way you just said that. What the hell is wrong with you?
This scene is the only part in the movie that actually has real, genuine heart to it.
Ah, that did not do much good. It's not what you hear with your ears, Mr. Scrooge. It's what reaches your heart.
That was kind of touching and has more emotion in it than anything else. The whole scene is actually pretty well done. It's creative, charming, sticks to the story while having its own spin. It's really good. They go to Fred's place where, while the rest of the family seems pretty awful, Fred just wants to be nice to his uncle.
Your nephew reaches out to you. He has your sister's heart.
If he had an ounce of sense in him, he would never have married before he'd established himself.
I think Lawrence Southern would disagree with you there.
They then go to Cratchit's house.
I'm sure you remember the little boy.
No, should I?
Why are you here? You're not even trying to get him to read the letter. So you know how it goes. Tiny Tim is sick, but Cratchit still wants to give love to Scrooge, and then the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come arrives. Somehow he is not the creepiest thing in this. This scene is horribly presented. Watch this.
He always loved Christmas, especially with snow. Back now.
He loved to slide. I'd carry him on my shoulders.
Why are we seeing it from feet away in circles? And again, why do they move so weird?
Oh, speak to me, spirit. What are these shadows?
Oh, fuck off.
He is shown that his death will be celebrated by the townspeople and vows to change his ways, waking up in his bed.
Oh, I say, what day is it today? For the devil, boy, I ask a simple question.
It's Christmas Day, sir.
Hey look, it's the snowman. I could be watching that right now. He tells the kid to get the biggest goose for Bob Cratchit.
Can you remember all that, boy?
Yes, sir, I can, sir.
And whatever is left, you may keep for your trouble.
He then kept all the money for himself, and Tiny Tim died very hungry. I'm making a joke, but Scrooge is thinking the same thing.
Be sure to check that boy keeps his word. Plenty of street rats around. Merry Christmas to you, sir!
What the hell was that? Is it saying it's too late for him?
The mice finally get him to read the letter as he goes out being all cheery and shit. What, no love for the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come? Come on, I want to see you try to make that whimsical.
Here I stand alone with this
Hello, song.
Bit late to give this a big soundtrack music number, but okay. Joe has already sold everything, but Scrooge tells him that he won't need his services anymore. Scrooge and Belle reconcile because that's what this story needed, a romantic subplot, and he releases the debtors from prison. You know, Scrooge probably would have forgiven everyone's debt anyway, which makes me wonder how he'll stay in business. But even then, why the hell were the mice and letter important? You added 2 plot devices that didn't serve any purpose to the plot.
Have you got any notion of...
Oh, fuck off, just end!
Tiny Tim. Not I. He was a second father.
Time to spread some hope.
That meant have an actual ending, don't just stop. By God, this was bad!
There's just no heart to it. It's boring, not very charming, the animation is unimpressive, it's dull to look at, the voice acting is average, and it adds things to the story that did not need to be added. This was one of the hardest things I've had to watch. Besides the music and that one great scene, there is nothing interesting here.
There's gotta be something more worthwhile to review this month. Okay. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Imbeciles! You ruined